Some viewers may find this content disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Who dares awaken me from my 1,000-year slumber? Harley Owens, what brings you to the fox den to disturb me from a much-needed rest? This must mean it is time for a new beginning known as midnight lycanthropy, which also means before we do head out, I must recharge myself. I am so hungry. Much better. You do not understand what it feels like to wake up after 1,000 years with nothing to feast on. Now that I have regained my power sources, it is time for Harley and I to take a walk into the darkness. My creatures of the night, yes. Welcome to this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here in the Fox Den. I do hope everyone is doing well. We have an amazing guest tonight who is going to tell us about his nightmare fuel encounter in the Tennessee area. Harley, the mic and the floor is now yours.
I'm Harley Owens. I am a Bigfoot researcher from East Tennessee. I've been doing it for a little over a month now. December 7th of 2023 is when I started doing my field research. I had my first Bigfoot encounter in 2020. It definitely opened my eyes to a world of that there is other creatures here besides what's natural. So yesterday, January 29th, 2024, I went out and I started to look at a new research area for the Sasquatch. Previously, before this, I had managed to capture a couple of Dogman on film, and Kenny has the still captures of those. They're definitely not Bigfoot. They're canine-like creatures. I never had a first-hand encounter of one, but I have them on film. How I managed that was I had a back trail camera going on my backpack. I learned doing that from Scott Carpenter. He was a Bigfoot researcher, and he came across the Dogman here in East Tennessee as well. I go to these new areas. The first area I went to, then nothing really turned up. I had found a couple of tree structures and other things that the Sasquatch had made, and I never really paid attention for looking for a Dogman. I hiked through this first area for about an hour or two. I head out of there, and it was about 4 o'clock. And I go to this second area, and it goes further on up the mountain. It leads to a waterfall. And I go up through the trail there. I cross a couple creeks, and I get to the split in a trail that goes up the mountain, or it goes to the right and it kind of goes back down the mountain. So I decided to go further up the mountain. And as I'm standing there going up the trail, walking and looking, I noticed a couple of big twist breaks that the Sasquatch had made in the area. So I documented that. I was videoing, and I snapped pictures from the video as I was walking up through that area. As I walked back to the trail from where I seen these twist breaks, I look at my phone, I checked the time, and I had 30% battery at that time. It was 5:33, and I start walking, and as I'm looking at my phone, it said 10% battery, and then it instantly just shut off. Yesterday, I had actually forgot to charge my back trail camera, and so I was just strictly using my phone. I was like, okay, this is great. So I'm standing there and I'm debating on what I want to do next. I was like, well, it's starting to get dusk, so I need to start going back. And a part of me was like, no, just go on up the hill. And I just came to the conclusion I needed to go back. It's going to get dark soon, so I knew I had a pretty good hike back to get back to my truck. Right where I was standing, I turned and I walked maybe 5 or 10 yards, and I heard something behind me. So I turned. In front of me to my left, which the noise when I was going down the trail, it was behind me to my right. So I turned instantly right in my tracks, and I'm facing back up towards the trail to see if I could see what it was. And over there to my left, because there's a little drop off that goes down to the creek, and I see it. It's laying there flat. The only thing that really stuck out to me right then when I was looking at this thing, I was like, it's a big canine. It had the canine ears, and it had the snout and the big, big yellow eyes. And it was instantly after I turned and I seen this thing, it pushes itself up off the ground with its front legs to a bipedal position. And it takes 3 steps, and it goes behind this tree, and it leans out and it looks at me. And now as I'm looking at this thing, it's like looking at something that doesn't have a soul. It's just empty. I mean, when I look into a Sasquatch's eyes and there's a soul there, it's like the Dogman, this thing was something different. It wanted to kill me. It was just a very evil feeling. So I was standing here and I was looking at this thing. I mean, it was starting to get cold up there on the mountain. It's probably about 30 degrees. This thing, when it was breathing, the air, you could see the haze from it breathing. And it was growling and snarling at me. And I was just like, I'm going to die. Like, my life, it flashed before my eyes. I figured I was not coming off this mountain. My phone was dead and I was going to die. I'm sitting here looking at this thing, and it's growling and snarling at me. It looked like something out of a dang gone movie. Its head was, he had a long snout. His nose was like smudged into his top jaw. The top of his head was flat, and he had big, wide, pointed ears. And the eyes was as yellow as the sun. And this thing was, his hands were, they were human-like, but they were almost like a raccoon's hand. The claws were just huge and almost had like a mane running down the back of its neck, much like what a wolf has. And some of its face looked like a German Shepherd, and then the rest of it just looked wolf-like. So as I'm sitting here looking at this thing, it's growling and it's snarling at me, and it keeps throwing its arm out like it's trying to grab at me. And I'm sitting here looking at it, and I just knew I had to run. So as I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I need to go. They just kept looking at me. Its tail was swaying back and forth. And it was kind of like a fox's tail, just a big, bushy tail. It was huge. And I just knew that it was going to get me. I start backpedaling, and I turned. I just ran as fast as I could. I veered off the trail some, and I got back on the trail, and I would run some more. I mean, I was trying to avoid this thing getting me. It was absolutely terrifying. This thing, it had it out for me. It's not like when you have a Bigfoot. Every Bigfoot encounter that I've had, they've either been far off in the distance, or one of my Bigfoot encounters, they were toying with me. I had a Bigfoot that was walking in front of me to my right-hand side, but he was in front of me. and he come out from around the tree, and I was making eye contact with it, and to my left, this thing made a snap, and then behind me one started stomping. But I mean, whenever I had this Dogman encounter yesterday, I never carried a gun out of respect for the Sasquatch. I carried a big knife, and that was all I had at the time. I left my pistol in the pickup. I wish I had a pistol. I mean, to somehow give myself a chance. I mean, this thing, I wouldn't have done nothing with just a knife. Go running back down the mountain, and this thing's on me. I mean, it literally sounds like it's right on top of me. And I get to the first creek, and I crossed this little wooden bridge, and I slipped and I fell a couple times, and it stopped chasing me. I don't know if it was guarding something or what, but it did not want me in that area. And there's some kind of relationship between the Bigfoot and the Dogman, and I'm still working on theories for that. But this encounter is definitely making me want to put on the brakes for right now. I mean, if you can't tell by my voice, I'm shook up about it. Barely had any sleep last night, so the nightmares were pretty rough from this encounter. I want to thank Kenny. I've shared some of the Dogman images that I've captured from my research around the Bigfoot and stuff, and the Dogman are with them, and I wish I could have had a way of documenting this one, because he was close. He was about 10 yards away from me. It was brown in color. It literally looks like something out of a movie. It was crazy. It was literally like a werewolf, but I think it was a dog. I know it was a dog, man. It wasn't a Sasquatch. It had pointed ears. It had a snout. It was very wolf-like. It was growling and snarling at me. It had a long tail, huge claws. I really couldn't tell the feet, but the upper half of this thing's torso was huge. It was muscular, and the bottom half of its body was thinner, but it was still muscular. It had canine appearances to it, but just they were human-like. And this was an encounter that I was never expecting to ever have. I mean, February 7th will mark 2 months of me doing my field research on Bigfoot, and I've had, since my first Bigfoot encounter, I've had 3 more Bigfoot encounters that I can confirm from December 7th till now. And yesterday was my first Dogman encounter, and that is an encounter that I will remember for the rest of my life. It's kind of making me want to put the brakes on my Bigfoot research, but I gotta keep doing what I'm doing. So I just want to reiterate that these things will kill you. I definitely felt like I was going to be killed. I knew that I was probably never going to be seen again, and this encounter was one for the books for me. The fear and everything, it scared me. I would rather run into 20 Bigfoot than one of these things again.
Thank you for everyone who stopped by the Fox Den tonight to hang out with Harley and myself for this episode of Midnight Lycanthropy. If you do enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, and share it. Feed the algorithm just like it is time for me to feed again. Until next time, stay safe out there, be good people, and remember, there are things that go bump in the night that are much worse than I.